With the housing market seeming to slow down or at least feel some shocks, is it an opportune time for some buyers to jump in who have been left on the sidelines by rising prices and shrinking demand? Joining Top Story tonight, a face you know, a name synonymous with real estate, Fredrik Eklund. He's the founder of the Eklund Gomes team at Douglas Elliman Real Estate and author of The Sell, The Secrets of Selling Anything to Anyone. Fredrik, thanks for joining Top Story tonight.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start with that top line number. Nearly 60,000 deals falling apart just in June. That according to Redfin. I know you're a deal maker. Why are these deals coming apart?
Well, I think, first of all, not to be too dramatic, the market is cooling, deals are falling through. But we have to remember that even in 2019, before the pandemic, before the lockdowns, we didn't have that great of a market. It was sort of dwindling down slowly all over the nation. And then we know what happened. 2020 came and we had a halt in the marketplace, right? But after that, I think we all forgotten, the markets went crazy. I'm smiling and I'm saying this, as a real estate broker, it was the best year, 2 years in the history of real estate. Will we ever have something like this again? I don't think so. And the low interest rate environment. So we're coming off of that is my point.
So those were the good old days, I guess you can say, even though it was just last year. What do you think's happening right now? Do you think it's rising interest rates, and do you think people are concerned about the economy?
Yeah, and that's my point. It's not like we're going into, let's say, a bad market. We're coming off these record highs. And even, let's say, New York, Q2, we still had the highest median price ever measured in New York. So we're coming off hot markets, very high velocity, crazy busy. And I think people are taking a little bit of a pause here in the summer. People are, let's say, a little exhausted almost. Certainly a lot of people traded, a lot of people bought, sold, and moved around in the country a lot in the last year and a half. So we're taking a little bit of a breather, and that's what we're seeing. Also higher inventory and then higher interest rates. And
all right.
My tip right now, if you're a buyer,
Yeah, no, go for it. I was going to ask you exactly that. Go for it.
No, I mean, if you're a buyer right now, it's kind of a good position to be in. Inventory is rising, and you have more, opportunities out there. I say to my buyers, try to be second in line. And what I mean by that is, you don't want to overbid and win the property. It's actually that kind of buyer's market. You want to be the second in line. So when that deal falls through, that escrow falls through, or they can't get the financing, you're second in line, and you can maybe even renegotiate your deal to even a lower value.
And then if you're selling your property, what are you advising your sellers?
Well, if you're a seller right now, you got to have patience. And a lot of people are taking off their properties, believe it or not, and then maybe bring it back in September, which I'm not sure it's that great of a strategy, because I think we're going to see even more price reductions in the fall with all that inventory coming on again. So what we're seeing in the luxury market, of course, is people are not really reducing prices, but there's a whisper campaign, if you will, around sort of the unpublished price, and people are really ready to negotiate and take, a hit on the asking price. What
trends are you seeing? We have this list from CNBC about the top 10 markets that are cooling. A lot of them are in the Bay Area, and when we talked about 60,000 of those deals coming apart, almost nearly all of them were in the state of Florida. So do you see bubbles in the Bay Area and parts of California and Florida, or was just there were so much real estate transactions happening that it's just starting to cool naturally?
Yeah, I think if you look at those particular markets, or even some of those top 10, markets where it's cooling the most, those are also the markets that went too expensive too quickly. I mean, in Florida in general, some of these pockets even doubled in 1 year. So it's natural. I would still argue that the prices and even some of the velocity is higher there today than it was, in the end of 2019.
So, Fredrik, look into your crystal ball, your beautiful crystal ball that you probably bought at some bazaar somewhere across the world, someplace we've never even heard of. Okay, maybe in Sweden. What's one place people aren't looking at right now or talking about that you think there's prime opportunity for real estate investors or somebody looking to move and buy a new home?
I'm in 13 markets, 5 states. They're all like my children, I say. But if I had to pick one, it's Texas still. And what's going on in Texas is just incredible. And if you have a chance to grab something there, you're lucky. And You know, it reminds me of when I moved to New York in 2003, 2004, where you still have bidding wars. Inventory is coming up a little bit there still, but it's so tight. So grab something there, and you're going to do very well on your capital appreciation.
And finally, a market that scares you a little bit. Finally, a market where maybe people should stay away from.
Well, the real high end right now is having issues. Anything over 20 million in New York and Beverly Hills and LA it's a hard time, you know. So I wouldn't say stay away, because if you have a quality house and you have a unique property, there's always going to be a demand. However, you know, it's not like the good old days where you put it out and get snapped up. So patience, patience, patience. And on that note, a lot of the very wealthy with the big price points in the luxury market, they have that patience, and they're just going to wait till the next cycle, whenever that is.
Fredrik, I'm glad you brought up that point, because the median home price for the top story viewer, the average top story viewer of this show, $20 million. So that is our audience right there. Fredrik Eklund, we appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for all that advice.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.